Okay guys, this is how I make barbecue ribs. So first you obviously want to wash your meat, and then I like to soak my meat in white vinegar. I always soak my meat with white vinegar. It doesn't matter if it's chicken or pork or beef. I like to do this step. I'm just going to cover it with a tin foil and leave it to sit for about 5 minutes. So this is what my setup looks like. I spread out some aluminum foil on my kitchen counter, and I just placed double layer of kitchen towels over it, and then place the ribs on the kitchen towels. I then use some kitchen towels to damp the meat dry. Make sure the meat is properly dry before putting your dry seasoning over it, because you want it to be coated, and when it's wet, it doesn't really fully coat the meat the way I like it. So this is how I like to do it. For my dry seasoning, I used some paprika, some mustard, some garlic, some stock cubes, some chili, a generic barbecue rub. I used some black pepper, I used ginger, sea salt, oregano. I also added 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar. In this version I use a keto friendly one, which is the Swerve brown sugar, but you can use any brown sugar you want. This is what it looks like after mixing it all up together. I make sure I properly coat the ribs on both sides and even the corner sides with the dry seasoning. I like to use this flat pan because it's just convenient for me, because I'm also going to bake the ribs in this pan, so everything just works out perfectly, and I just find it easier to coat my ribs when I put it in a dry pan. But you can put it in a Ziploc bag if you want, that's an option, and you can also try using a bowl, but this just works perfectly. And you can see it's properly coated. If the ribs were wet, then it's not really gonna coat as nicely as it's coating right now. So just work your way through it, coat each piece of meat, and just spread it on the pan. Okay, so next I used some apple cider vinegar. I just like to spread it on the pan. This kind of helps the meat to tenderize. Because what is barbecue ribs if it's not tender and juicy and just falling off the bone, right? So after spreading it, I'm just going to cover it with some aluminum foil and put it in my oven that's been preheated to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and let it bake for 2.5 hours. So make sure it's properly sealed. There's no leaks, no holes, nowhere for the air to go, because we really want the ribs to be juicy and soft and falling off the bone, and off it goes in the oven. So while it's in the oven, I'm just mixing my barbecue sauce. So I have some olive oil in there. I'm gonna add barbecue sauce to it. It doesn't matter which barbecue sauce you use. I'm using a keto friendly one. It's a sugar-free one, and that is what I have. I did put a lot of extra ingredients, but if you're using like an actual barbecue sauce, you don't need to. Like this chili garlic sauce is totally optional for you. I just like a little bit of a kick in it. And I put some ginger, which I think everyone should put some in their barbecue sauce. It just tastes way better. Some Worcestershire sauce, just a little bit. Some real lemon juice. I feel like I put lemon juice in everything. And I also put a little bit, just a little white cooking wine. You could totally skip this part if you don't have some at home. I'm just extra. And this, I just bought it recently and decided to try it. You can totally skip it, nothing's gonna change. I used some molasses just to add a little bit of that sweetness, since I'm using a low carb barbecue sauce and low carb brown sugar. This just gives it that sugary taste that regular barbecue sauce has. So I put some molasses in there, give it a little bit of a mix, just like that. And this is what it should look like, or something close to this anyways. So I got my ribs out of the oven, and I like to use an aluminum pan for this because it gets really messy, and I just like to make my life easier, you know. You don't want to wash a lot of stuff. So I could have gotten a bigger pan, but this is what I had at home. You're just gonna coat them with the barbecue sauce we just made. And I did put a little bit of that juice from the other pan. I just poured a little bit over it. And yeah, you just want to properly coat the meat. And set your oven to broil this time and let it broil for 15 minutes on both sides, so a total of 30 minutes. You can see I flipped it over and it's gonna go back. I am gonna coat it again with the barbecue sauce, and then it goes back in the oven to broil for 15 more minutes. You can broil it a little bit longer if you want it to be so the more you broil it, the more sticky, but you really don't want it to burn. So just broil it for 15 minutes on both sides and that should be totally fine. So at this point, it is very delicate. It will totally fall apart if you're not careful, but yeah, it is really tasty. I had a friend of mine that's been asking me for this recipe for the longest time because I made it one time for a house party and it was a hit. So this is what it looks like. Try this recipe and tell me how it goes. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on the bell notification, and hopefully I see you in another one pretty soon. Yeah, it is so juicy.